Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder that is caused by prenatal alcohol exposure. And we know now that alcohol exposure at various points in the pregnancy, really any point in the pregnancy, can cause brain damage that later contributes to differences in how a child can process information, can learn, can remember, and can solve problems. This is a problem that affects, we used to think 1% of the population. Now we realize that this actually affects probably closer to 2 to 4% of the population. And it's a major public health issue.
It's not uncommon for families living with an FASD to face human rights issues. And oftentimes the families don't even realize that they are facing a human rights violation. Sometimes families face difficulties or barriers accessing services. There's a lack of diagnostic capacity around the United States for an FASD diagnostic assessment. And even for families that are lucky enough to have access to an FASD diagnosis, they often struggle to find the ongoing services that their children need in order to be successful. There's a real lack of FASD-informed providers in the communities.
We believe that having a bright future means that you get to fully participate in all aspects of your future. We are committed at MoFast to helping people not limit themselves, allowing people to have their hopes and dreams become a reality, and by helping to create pathways to have those hopes and dreams become something that really is a part of their day-to-day life. We really believe that the role of MoFast is to help lead a conversation both on the state level and the national level about prenatal alcohol exposure and fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. MoFast is really interested in helping the FASD community explore the intersections on all the different systems that someone with an FASD relates to. The healthcare system, the education system, the social service system, the mental health system, the correction system, and the justice system. All of these systems are serving people with an FASD, whether they realize that they are or not. So we really feel like our job at MoFast is to create an awareness in all of those systems about what the individuals, the professionals who are working in those areas can do to help support the individuals that they are working with to achieve their hopes and dreams and achieve the outcomes that they would like to see in their lives.
Individuals living with an FASD deserve equitable access to an education. And when you're thinking about kids with an FASD, there's some really disturbing trends that are going on across schools in the nation. There's a high rate of truancy, expulsion, bullying, and learning difficulties that kids face because of their disability. And when kids are facing those types of issues because of their disability, that's really a human rights issue.
My teacher will come to me and ask me if I need any help or anything like that. And that's what I need, because I'm not going to come to my teacher by myself and raise my hand and tell her that I need help, because that's just not how I work.
Thomas has a lot of strengths that I don't think would be allowed to shine in a typical classroom setting. Thomas can do algebra. He does it very well, but he needs to use the basic multiplication cheat sheet, which a classroom setting would not allow that in an Algebra 1 setting.
Individuals with an FASD face many barriers to finding appropriate housing and supportive services within the community to really live interdependently within their communities. And that's a real challenge for those families, and it also, again, represents a human rights issue that those families are facing.
Specifically in adulthood now, we're facing trying to find appropriate housing for our son.
We did end up finding adult foster care, but it was like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
There's a nexus between FASD and employment. A lot of individuals with an FASD struggle to find a job. And then when they do find a job, there's often struggles maintaining that job. But the reality is that employers are required to accommodate the disability when you're thinking about someone with an FASD. And oftentimes, a lack of knowledge about the disability and understanding the needs of an individual living in FASD can really hamper that individual getting access to the appropriate accommodations that they need in order to be successful.
My daughter is 23. She was diagnosed at 13. I had many years of misdiagnosis, and a very wonderful lady at the school district as a nurse asked me if I drank. And I said yes, and she was tested, and we went through many stages with her. Once we were able to get the diagnosis, we got the right help we needed. She is now 23 years old. She's lived on her own. She graduated high school. Even though her teachers told her not to go on to school, she went on to cosmetology, graduated cosmetology, took the test, after 4 times passed the test, and has now been working about a year. It took us about 3 years to get her through that whole go to school, graduate, take the test, and become a cosmetologist. But she has now been a cosmetologist for over a year.
Individuals living with an FASD and overall individuals with intellectual disabilities, they're at an increased risk for victimization. They're at increased risk for physical abuse and also for sexual exploitation. But regardless of their disability, individuals deserve equal access to justice.
One of the things that we're most excited about is over the next several months, we will be launching a national initiative to begin to have those conversations with all of those different systems. We will really be focusing on the justice system and helping to bring together individuals, professionals, families, people that are living with this disability to really understand what are the next steps that we need to take as a field, as an organization, and really as a society in terms of making sure that all individuals with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders have an opportunity to indeed have a bright future. Prenatal alcohol exposure is common, and we really need to dispel the myth, dispel the stigma around this, that this is something that happens to other people.
I think it's very important to end the stigma, because as a parent to a child, sometimes it's hard to tell people that your child has FASD. As a birth mother, it's twice as hard, because as soon as you tell somebody, yeah, my daughter has FASD, they say, oh, you adopted her? No, I had her. And we need to end that. I mean, there's choices that are made, but we can't take back the choices we made, but we can only make them the best people we can.
MOFAS is really positioned to help families understand that they're not alone in their journeys, and to also illustrate that there's strength in numbers. A lot of families across the United States and even in Minnesota are facing human rights violations on a consistent basis. So our goal as an organization is to bring awareness to those human rights issues, and also to give a voice to those families and the tools that they really need to recognize when they're facing a human rights violation, so that they understand their rights and they can work for better outcomes for their children.
MOFAS feels so strongly about this issue that our board of directors approved a statement on FASD and human rights, and that this really provides a template for the conversation about making sure that everyone with FASD has access to the services and supports they need to be successful.
FASD cannot be cured, but it can be accommodated.
All of our kids have a similar thread, but none of them have the same path. They're all going to walk a divergent path, and success to one may not be success to the other.
10 years from now, I would love it if he really felt that he was living as independent life as he wanted to. I would love to see him in his own place with the accommodations that he needs, but that he felt he was an independent citizen.
As a culture, what I think would be imperative in the future is that we have a change, a shift in how we view fetal alcohol spectrum disorder and people who have those particular symptoms. We accommodate for the blind. We have a lot of programs for them. The autism. There's another population that is just as great, if not bigger, and they are not getting the attention of the institutions, our government, to be able to access what they need to.
We firmly believe that everyone is worthy of inclusion and respect, and that it is our job as an organization and as a community to really not settle for anything besides complete inclusion in the society.